earlier in the earlier videos we have already discussed about the concept of abuse of dominant position and non-pricing practices. Then we have discussed about exclusive dealing agreements. Then we also discussed about tying agreements in the previous videos. So in this video, this is the last video regarding non-pricing practices, which comes under abuse of dominant position in the EU. So in this we'll be discussing about refusal to supply. So refusal to supply basically is not anti-competitive in nature per se. However, what refusal to supply basically means? Refusal to supply means that a undertaking which is dominant in the market is stopping to give the product or supplying the product or service to its competitor, which is leading which is prejudicing the market share and also prejudicing the customers. So what are there are basic things which are considered by the commission while taking into consideration whether the undertaking is doing abuse of dominant position or not. So what are those points? A refusal to supply products to existing or new customers, a refusal to give license of intellectual property rights, a refusal to grant access to an essential facility or a network. So if this happens, then that can be said that the undertaking is actually doing refusal to supply. Now under refusal to supply there are two types, that is, one is vertical refusal to supply, other one is horizontal vertical supply. Vertical refusal to supply is coming into picture when the undertaking is not giving its product or supplying its products or services to a downstream market competitor. Okay, it is stopping to give certain product which is needed for the downstream market company to compete with the upstream market company. So they're stopping giving the product. Secondly, what is horizontal refusal to supply? Horizontal refusal to supply basically means that there is company A, there is company B. Company A is producing, let's say copper utensils. Okay, now the basic thing, the copper is given to the company B by company A. Earlier, the company B was manufacturing copper wire, but now they are going to manufacture copper utensils as well. Now, company A comes to know about this, and company A stops the supply of the product, that is supply of the ore product. Okay, copper, that is the ore product is copper. So while doing this, now the company B can't even produce the wire, that is copper wire, which they used to produce earlier, and they can't also produce utensils, copper utensils. So this is how the horizontal refusal to supply happens. Now while considering the refusal to supply, there are certain factors which are considered by the commission. So what are those factors? We will be dealing with that. Okay, so there is a refusal to supply, so first of all it is important to understand that whether the other party do they have other alternatives. If this undertaking who is dominant in the market is not giving the product, so if the company B have other alternatives, then it cannot be considered as refusal to supply. Okay, because the company A have all the rights to refuse to give the supply of particular product or services. They can have their own justifications. So if they are valid justifications, then we cannot per se say that it is refusal to supply. So that is first thing, that is whether there is refusal to supply or not, okay, by the dominant undertaking. There is a term called constructive refusal. Now what is constructive refusal? It means that at the upfront practice we cannot see that there is a refusal to supply. However, it is a tactic which is used by the undertaking and which is leading stopping of the competition, a fair competition in the market. So that is constructive refusal. So then this is the first point which is considered. What is the second point which is considered by the commission? The second point which is considered by the commission is, does the accused undertaking have a dominant position in the upstream market? So vertical, we are talking about the vertical refusal to supply. So if the undertaking is dominant in the upstream market, then only they can refuse to supply something to the downstream market. So it is important that they are in the upstream market and they are refusing to supply the product or the service to the downstream market competitor. Okay, so this is the second point. What is the third point? Is the product to which the access is sought is indispensable to someone wishing to compete in the downstream market? So as we discussed earlier regarding company A, company B. So if my core product of for the manufacturing of something is taken by the upstream market, company A, then for me it's really important that I need to get that product. Otherwise, I cannot have my production. I have to stop my production. So under those circumstances, it is important to prove that this is essential for the downstream market, company B, to get that product. Otherwise, the production will be halted. Okay, now would refusal to grant access lead to the elimination of effective competition in the downstream market? So now if the person stops it, so whether it stops me to do manufacturing, so if that is yes, then of course there is a refusal to supply, and this is leading to anti-competitive behavior. Now so we have discussed about 4 points. Now the other fifth point is when the upstream market company is refusing to supply, whether they have any objective justification, because it's possible that they do not want to give supply any product. When if the other company B, for say, if they are there is a customer credit risk, if the customer is a bad debtor, if the product which is given is used for illegal purpose, or if the customer failed to observe the procedural obligations or contractual obligations which are needed. So under that circumstances, if company B is not doing so, then of course company A have all the right to stop the production or supplying the service or production products to the company B. So if there is a justifiable obligation or objection which can be raised by the company A, then that can be considered as valid, and then that will be not called as refusal to supply. Now horizontal foreclosure, we can consider only one point, that is refusal to supply a distributor as a disciplinary measure. So as a disciplinary measure, if you're stopping the distributor to stop giving the product to your competitor, then that cannot be considered as refusal to supply. So that is something which is need to be considered by the commission. And so these are the basic things. And refusal to supply to the nationality to on the basis of nationality, or refusal to supply to prevent parallel imports or exports, is also considered as anti-competitive nature. You cannot refuse to supply any product or services based on nationality, or any product which is imported or exported. So that is how it is. These are the basic things. You can read the cases and understand more deeply how the commission deals with such things. Thank you for watching this video.